safety of whistleblowers in South Africa, or the lack thereof. Testimony before the Madlanga Commission this week has exposed disturbing allegations of police officers acting as hitmen, the botched assassination of a whistleblower, and the murder of an innocent man, engineer Armand Swart in Vereniging Public Interest South Africa says our justice system is failing to protect those who expose corruption, especially when the threat comes from within the state itself. Joining us in studio is Tebogo Khaas, founder and chair of Public Interest South Africa. Tebogo, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you for having me, Hugo.
Now, where we'd like to start off is the question around a police officer, right, who's accused of orchestrating assassinations and then being given 10,000 rand bail. Now, you've drawn exception to this.
No, certainly it's quite worrisome to see that the people who are entrusted with our safety, public safety, as well as security, are the ones we should also be worried about insofar as them being on the take. And these revelations, as they happen in the Madlanga Commission, as you rightly put it, are an eye-opener. Now the dots are beginning to connect as to, on the one hand, why people don't trust the state, even the witness protection program. We've had instances where whistleblowers or witnesses have refused to be put on the witness protection program because they are just elements within the state, within the witness protection program itself, who are compromised. And that is a big problem.
So when we talk about whistleblowers, right, the likes of Babita Deokaran, who unfortunately lost her life, and many others who have blown the whistle or are intending to blow the whistle, what protection, what rights exist for them?
Currently, zero. Their rights are just as ordinary citizens do have. And we know that for them, the risk is elevated, unlike ordinary citizens, because somebody who's got something to lose do not want to see them testify before court, do not want to see them leave, do not want to see the wrongdoing being exposed. So they've got a lot to lose, and that is a special. It requires a special attention from the state, because the state is the one that should guarantee us as citizens safety and security in the first instance. But those individuals, oftentimes, they're left to fend for themselves. There's retaliation even within the workplace. Sometimes bogus charges are laid against them to try and get them out of the system, as it's now becoming more and more apparent within the commission that is currently unfolding, why certain senior police officers charges were preferred about that. Obviously, we're still going to hear more about that. So it is a worrisome thing where whistleblowers their livelihoods get to be affected. Often they don't earn an income if they are displaced from work. And the state is really failing whistleblowers. It's failing those who stand by our constitution, who are trying to shore up our democracy and do right by society.
Tebogo, there's almost an irony to that, because if we look at the levels of corruption around state capture, much of which were exposed by measure of whistleblowers, the Madlanga Commission that we are witnessing at the moment, where again there are various individuals that have been involved in exposing some of these individuals. Shouldn't the state be keen to protect these individuals in a way to allow more people to come to the fore and expose the greater rot that is occurring in government?
Logically, that should be the case. I'll go back to the example of Babita Deokaran that you used when you started. In fact, Babita was doing her job, and little did she know that she was actually touching on sensitive or high-profile individuals within the Department of Health in Gauteng. And she raised the issues, she flagged the issues with her boss. In other words, she raised you could say she blew the whistle that something is not right here. And yet the very same people she was blowing the whistle to turn out to be linked to those who have actually been plundering resources and money from the Tembisa hospital. So it becomes difficult even for whistleblowers to actually know who to trust to start with, because even within the environment itself, you might find that the individuals themselves, your bosses, your senior managers, may actually be conniving with the whistleblowers, and with the wrongdoers. And if you go to the police station and report cases, you find that you have to be careful now, because policemen themselves are now being shown to actually be on the take.
Well, speaking of policemen, and there's a former detective, Michael Puletau, who's accused of coordinating hits linked to whistleblower suppression, right? And he's out on 10,000 rand bail. What is wrong with that?
What is even more worrisome about that, what is so jarring, is that not only did Michael Dow sell out his own colleagues, for the benefit, for his own personal financial interest, apparently. That's what it is. But he has also gone on to ensure that he breaks the laws himself when he was also put on bail, and being able to give insights as to evidence is coming up. Obviously, this is still evidence. One side has been laid bare, but where you find that other senior officials, even the general, major general for this matter, actually has been giving information and tipping off those who are supposed to be in the crosshair of the criminal justice systems, and making them alert as to who give them information, and therefore put a target on the back of those who actually speak out. It is worrisome because police have got access to information that you and I don't have. They would ordinarily know who reported who to whom, what time, and what the details or the state of the investigation. And that for me is quite shocking. And we must be thankful to senior police officers such as Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, who actually came out and blew their whistle. Because were it not for his efforts, most of this information will still be in the dark. We would be nonetheless, we will be seeing individuals getting bail even after they've committed the same offense over and over again, and putting society at risk.
Well, the bulk of whistleblowers obviously do not have the same level of protection that would afford it or be accorded to somebody like Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. So where does it leave corruption or the elements of exposure of corruption in the country if those potentially that may not be at the helm of it but have inside information that could stem the tide or stem the flow of corruption are no longer prepared for fear of their own lives to blow the whistle?
You cannot blame any individual who says, I'll turn a blind eye when I see wrongdoing, because once they see the kind of consequences or repercussions or retaliation that others face having done the same thing, they would think twice. Most would, and you cannot blame somebody from saying, look, my life matters, my family's livelihood matter. But we want to dissuade that. We want to encourage more and more people to actually speak out. There are avenues or methods that can be used to make sure that things can be disclosed securely and anonymously, so that those who are tasked investigation can actually do their job of uncovering those wrongdoing. But it is a tough call to anybody to say, martyr yourself or somebody else just for the sake of our democracy.
So why isn't the government acting? Because these whistleblowers have been absolutely critical in exposing the rot.
I wish government could be, I would wish the Minister of Justice and others could be sitting here alongside us. Because 2 years ago, more than 2 years ago, maybe 2 years, 10 months ago, we've written, as public interest to say, to the Department of Justice, asking them to actually improve the whistleblowing mechanisms or the whole ecosystem of whistleblowing through legislation. And one of the key things, I would say, you need to protect whistleblowers more. Make sure that they get psychosocial support. Make sure that they can actually still eke out a living while there's still some of them in hiding or being shunted out of their jobs. And we want to make sure that even those who risk their own lives in the event that the state does recover, as it has done in the likes of ABB, Bain, and so many others, Deloitte and others who were found to have done wrong elsewhere. The state needs to be able to set aside some funds and say, we would like to compensate those who helped us recover this money. Because what's the point of the billions being recovered from the information that was disclosed by a whistleblower, and yet the whistleblower still lives in penury? They still, they're facing even worse hardship. And they're actually, in most instances, being shunned by even corporate SA itself, which doesn't want to even give them any opportunities to continue with their careers.
Tebogo, there's so much more to talk about, and we will come back to this conversation immediately after the break. You're watching Newsfeed, the PM edition. We're back in a moment. Don't go away. Thank you for staying with us. I have Tebogo Khaas, founder and chair of Public Interest South Africa. This conversation about the lack of whistleblowing protection amid revelations coming out of the Madlanga Commission. Now, just before the break, you talked about the government needs to do more, right, for whistleblowers. So let's start at the baseline. What are they currently doing for whistleblowers?
What they're currently doing is lip service, to put it bluntly. And it is very sad that we can still have this conversation and nothing is being said by government in a year in which government is holding the G20. And the G20 has got a framework, the G20 high-level framework for whistleblower protection. Government ought to be coming out, rising above the parapet and saying, in respect of the G20 high-level framework for protection of whistleblowers, which was adopted in 2012, this is why we are. This is what we have done. Instead, we still hear that bills are being shunted around between the various houses, the areas of government, to actually amend the whistleblower. So we don't even have a bill, despite the fact that we've had a discussion document on the subject after we've prodded government, but we still don't have a bill to see what exactly is government doing.
So Tebogo, I have to ask this. Babita Deokaran, who was responsible for unearthing multi-million rand corruption and fraud that was occurring at the Tembisa hospital, has a surviving daughter. What are the benefits that have accrued to her daughter or her family because of this discovery of this magnitude?
I would actually say what is the loss? Because they have lost. And it ought not to have happened. In a normal society, somebody should not be taken out of society because they're raising a concern and shining a light on malfeasance. Actually, it's a loss. And if anything, if it should comfort the family, the Babita family, who I had the pleasure of meeting and engaging with, a very simple family, unassuming, down-to-earth people. And I would imagine Babita on that fateful day when she dropped off her daughter at school, she had thought it was just a normal day where she's been assiduously going through her work, diligently making sure that the finance of the Gauteng provincial government works. But instead, they've lost. The benefit is to society. We, the whom Babita has left behind, are benefiting because now we know. We talk about millions. No, it's billions. 2 billions in Tembisa. We don't know what else happened in Baragwanath. We don't know what else happened in George Mukari. We don't know what happened in Steve Biko and many other clinics and hospitals within the public sector. So yes. Babita has helped actually scratch the surface. Now we're hoping authorities will actually go through all the other healthcare facilities to uncover what has been going wrong.
Tebogo, maybe we're asking for the impossible. What is happening in other countries? How are whistleblowers treated? For comparative purposes?
I honestly would be at 6 and 7 to answer that question, but because I wouldn't know exactly what's happening. But if you look at other jurisdictions, let's take the US with all its faults. The USA has got through the Department of Justice Security and Exchange Control Commission, they have a program where you know that if I blow the whistle, especially if there's monies involved, you can take that risk, making sure that you get lawyers working on your own contingency basis, knowing that in the event that there's $1 billion or 100 million being recovered, a portion of that would be allocated or would be donated to whoever it is that brought that information out. So that is something we need to emulate. Even in jurisdictions like Australia and others, protection of whistleblowers, it's something that has been taken seriously. But we don't seem to be. Witnesses die in court houses while waiting to testify.
Is there a direct correlation between the levels of crime or exposure of crime where whistleblowers are rewarded?
But the level of crime increases, especially with impunity, when people know that I can do this and never get found. I can do this and never face consequences. You and I, Hugo, cannot walk around in downtown Joburg. I would have to put my watch away or hide my jacket or phone, whatever it is, because people tend to turn a blind eye, say, no, it's not me. But can you imagine if your mom or your grandfather or your sister, your brother, your uncle goes to Tembisa Hospital and being turned away because they don't have medication and being turned away because they don't have the kind of medical tools needed to actually attend to patients. And yet people are building mansions or buying mansions in the order of hundreds of millions from monies that ought to be. So I mean, we listened to the testimony of former police minister, and I'm glad that he was asked the question, while you were meeting with Kat Matlala, when he was funding you to go and stay in this hotel, you must know that it was paid through the blood of Babita Deokaram. That is the irony of it all, that people don't realize that corruption is not a victimless crime. There are victims. Some of them are denied service delivery. Some of them pay with their lives. And yet we want to associate with those who amass wealth and lead a sensational lifestyle and at the state's expenses.
All right, Tebogo, as we wrap up, in a couple of days you are hosting the 3rd annual Whistleblower Summit and Awards. Just walk us through that. What are you commemorating specifically?
Yes, certainly. What the Whistleblower Summit and Awards, which is happening on Monday, the 27th at the Melrose Arch, what we're seeking to do is, again, to amplify the whole concept that people need to start speaking out. It shouldn't be left for somebody else to say, it doesn't affect me or doesn't affect me directly, therefore I'll keep a blind eye. That's what we want to do. But also, through the awards, we would like to recognize those who have been selfless, who have bravely or who had the courage to actually speak out and affirm them, and to tell those who are wanting to harm them that they are not alone. We're actually behind them, we're with them. If you're gonna go through, if you want to harm them, you also have to go harm us as well. So that is what we're seeking to do, but also to affirm those. And whistleblowing doesn't only happen in the state, also in the private sector. We've had a youngster who blew the whistle with that, is it Babylon or that restaurant, some Babel restaurant in Pretoria not so long ago, who exposed the harmful working environment where young students working there had to be subjected to conduct that is not incongruent with the laws, the employment laws. So we want to make sure that society becomes to mainstream whistleblowing, in other words. If you see somebody connecting illegally to a Eskom transformer or City Power transformer, you need to be able to raise the voice and say, sorry, no, not in our name. And that is what we're trying to encourage more and more adoption of speaking out within society.
And if you were to speak to the Justice Minister right now and ask for a single outcome, and as far as whistleblower protection is concerned, what would it be?
I had the privilege of having a small chat with the Minister of Justice a few weeks ago at a conference, and I did say as much as I would repeat again when the Deputy Justice Minister joins us on Monday that why are you taking so long with the legislative change amendments that we are seeking, that society is clamoring for? That is one thing that I would say. And what I would say to Justice, to former Chief Justice Zondo, who's also be keynoting the awards, I would say to him, thank you, but we need to ensure that we put the fire under the feet of those who are sitting on the Zondo reports. We need to make sure that there's comeuppance to the Baker McKenzie's of this world, to the Bains of this world, who need to do reparation to the harm that they've caused to society through enabling those who want to destroy this democracy.
Tebogo, it's been absolutely fantastic speaking to you. Thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Thank you so much for having me.